Hi, I'm James, and welcome to the Inversiverse, Episode 2. Thanks for joining me. On the previous episode, we discussed perception, consciousness, and transference. Today, I will be continuing from Episode 1. I will be discussing the following topics: projection, nature and nurture, imprints and bonds. These are known as concepts, and I'll elaborate on these further. This is Sigmund Freud. His theory of psychoanalysis brought us the term projection in respect to emotions and feelings, external and internal. Freud conceptualized it for us in terms of words and actions. Freud's theory, in the simplest terms, defines projection as the displacing of one's feelings, thoughts and emotions onto another person, animal or object. Projection has a few different meanings. 1. Visual projection, the act of showing an image or a video on a surface, like a wall or a screen, using a projector, as pictured. Mathematical projection, a way of mapping points from one space to another. For example, in geometry, we learn about projecting a 3D image shape onto a 2D plane. Then there's voice projection, the act of speaking loudly and clearly so that one's voice can be heard at a distance. For example, the actor practiced voice projection to be heard by the entire audience. And finally, estimation projection, making a prediction or estimate about future events based on current data or trends. For example, the weather forecast projected rain for the weekend. So projection can mean showing an image, predicting something, speaking clearly, or mapping points, depending on the context. I need a volunteer from the class. Anybody? Hey Alex, do you know what projection is?
I think I've heard of the word before, but I'm not sure what it means.
Sure,
Can you
projection
explain?
is like when you take your feelings or thoughts and imagine that someone else has them instead. Of course. Let's say you're
That
feeling
sounds
really nervous
interesting.
about a test.
Can you give
Instead of
me an
realising it's your
example?
own feeling, you might think that someone else is nervous too, even if they're not. Exactly, you're taking your own feelings and projecting them onto your friend.
Oh, I get it. So, if I'm feeling a bit angry and think my friend is angry at me,
Yep, it's
even
all
though
about
they're not,
being aware of
that's
our own
projection.
feelings and not assuming everyone else feels the same way. No problem, it's always good to understand our own minds.
Wow, that's really cool to understand. It helps to know that sometimes what we feel might not actually be about other people. Thanks for explaining. I'll keep that in mind next time I'm feeling something strong.
Let's discuss concepts. What's the definition of a concept? A concept is a mental representation or idea that categorizes objects, events, or relations based on common properties or characteristics. It serves as a building block of human cognition, allowing for understanding, prediction, and reasoning. What are these concepts, and how do these particular concepts play a big role in our development through life? A key concept is that of self. I am James. I am a conscious being aware of my presence in the world and of others. I can prove this theory of self through my interaction with others who acknowledge my presence. Society accepts we have a dynamic personalities and our behavior can be adjusted for the environment we interact with. So we have a perceived difference depending on where we are and who we are with. These concepts include expected self, social self, ideal self, and obviously your actual self. How you see yourself plays a big part in your interaction with others. From the previous roleplay, we established that projection can be physical and etherical, meaning that intentions and emotions cannot be visually perceived or seen, but they can be felt through transference and the process of transduction. This is how science conceptualizes this process. Let's go outside into nature. I want to show you something. When we are born, some psychologists and philosophers, dating back to Greek times, believe that we are born as blank slates, a theory known as tabula rasa. In the picture I'm pointing at, you can see a stone that has been chiseled out. The imprintation process is implied by a chisel. So if we go by this theory, we are effectively molds which can be imprinted upon as we grow, as we build character, personality, behaviour traits, and a sense of self, a concept previously highlighted. When we are born, we have no knowledge of the world, we have no experience, and we barely have autonomy over our own bodies until later in life. Our parents and community shape our experiences. When we consider these aspects for imprinting, for behaviour, we also need to consider a theory of nature and nurture. An imprint can be an emotional one or a physical one, such as in the example below. The tyre imprinted the sand with the contour of its design. Nature and nurture is described as factors which affect us internally and externally. Our genetics is our nature, how we care for ourselves and others is nurture. Now that we understand projection, nature and nurture, imprints, we can bring them all together with bonds. The image above shows an imprint model, how to influence and change behaviour. This same model can be used to help you improve in life, or lead you down the wrong path, or even awake you to the fact that some of your life has been manipulated and controlled without you knowing. The text even states, if imprints and conditioning is learned early enough, imprints are difficult, if not impossible, to erase. This is achieved by emotional conditioning, the targeting of thoughts, processes based on attitudes, stereotypes and or cultures, behavioural influences and communication. The cycle surmised is based on stimulation, response and behaviour as feedback mechanisms. The cult also used problem, reaction, solution to imprint and brainwash members of the public. Now that we understand projection, nature and nurture, imprints, we can bring them all together with bonds. So, let's talk about bonds. Chemical bonds are the connections holding atoms together to form everything around us, from the oxygen we breathe to the food and drink we eat. Emotional bonds are the connections we form with people, like family and friends. These involve our brains, hearts and bodies. Neurotransmitters like oxytocin and dopamine help us feel love and happiness, while our subconscious mind and past experiences shape these connections. Our heart responds to emotion too. Love and gratitude create healthy heart rhythms, showing the brain-heart-brain connection. Food influences our mood as well. Omega-3s in fish boost brain health, and chocolate triggers feel-good endorphins. Relationships, like friendships and family ties, are external bonds that support and enrich our lives. So bonds, whether chemical or emotional, are essential to our well-being and happiness. If you've come this far into my video, thank you. I just wanted to take this moment to promote some of my written work and back up some of the claims that I've made and the research and studies I've undertaken for the work that contributes to this series. Initially, I started off with Where is the Love? This was based on one day of realisation where I realised the world wasn't a very nice place at the moment, and I wanted to take some time to reflect on that. So I put my notes, thoughts, beliefs and opinions into my first blog post, Where is the Love? I followed that up with Is Narcissism the True Pandemic? Because I see a large factor of influence behaviour being played out right now in this world, and I feel that it's all part of a big agenda, And part of this series is hopefully going to help you see that the way that I do. Hopefully you'll see similar or have some realizations for yourself. I then followed up this with Hans Asperger, discoverer or conspiring architect. I found some links to historical vaccine use and how that is playing a detrimental role in our society. For more, please visit This Place Called Earth on Substack. And shortly, I'll be turning them all into audible files that can be listened to. If you like this video, please like and share. Thank you very much. We've come to the end of today's episode. Let's conclude what we have learnt. We have learnt about projection, nature and nurture, imprints and bonds. We can implement what we have learnt today. By example, we are aware of how external influences affect our internal worlds just by watching a video. We can be more aware of how our actions affect others by what we say. We can use the imprint model externally to influence our individual thoughts, feelings and behaviours, which also affects our relationships with others in life. Something to think about. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Are you fully conscious of yourself? Lots for us to consider and reflect on as individuals and a society. In episode 3, I will cover biases, mental models and constructs, conditioning and the environment.